Yo guys, what's up? This weekend we have LUDWIG'S Smash Invitational coming up. And as you know from my last video, I like invitationals, but I kinda prefer real majors. But this one is a special one. Ludwig, the big YouTuber, which most of us know for his variety streams, is hosting his own invitational. And while editing this video, no other than Mr. Beast actually came in clutch and said he's gonna sponsor the tournament because one of Ludwig's sponsors actually backed out last minute. So I'm really hyped for this invitational. I think it's gonna be quite big on YouTube this weekend and I think it's a cool idea. I always like to see the Japanese players competing in the US and the competition is so stacked at Ludwig's. So there's no reason not to talk about this and I really want to cover it. Okay, so what's Ludwig's Smash Invitational, who is there and what makes it special besides what I already said, and maybe we can ask who's gonna win it, but it's gonna be really hard to tell and I'm gonna explain to you guys why. Alright, so what is Ludwig's Smash Invitational? Ludwig's Smash Invitational is an invitational tourney, kinda like Summit, with 24 players directly invited and 8 players qualifying through last chance qualifier, and it's held this weekend on October 21st to 23rd in Las Vegas, Nevada. And apparently it's the biggest Smash invitation of all time, which makes sense because when you look at it, you normally don't have such a big last chance qualifier pool. And by the way, it has this for Melee and Ultimate, but I will only talk about Ultimate in this video. And this isn't supposed to be like any hate towards Melee or such. I think Melee can be hype, but it's just not my game. I prefer playing and watching Ultimate. Okay, so who is already in the tournament? As I said, 24 players are directly invited, and these are Cosmos, The Buzz, Cola, Light, Mars, Mute Ace, Myron, Onan, Tweak and Zomba from the United States, Riddles from Canada, Shaq, Meister, MK Leo and Spargo from Mexico, Sonics from the Dominican Republic, Gluttony from France, Siski from Spain, and then from Japan we got Cola, Asimo, Ken, Shuton, T and Zachary. Another thing that was tweeted while editing this video is that Leo is actually coming to the tournament. I was originally talking with you guys like that it's unsure if Leo is coming, but he made a tweet and said he is coming, but it's gonna be the last tournament for quite some time for him. He has some health issues with his ears, but let's hope that doesn't stop him from doing his best at Ludwig's tournament. Another thing I read on Twitter, and I don't know if all of this is true, so please take this with a grain of salt, but apparently Proto Banham was originally invited but couldn't go, and Myron instead got his place. And also Yoshidora, the sick Yoshi that always makes a Cola sweat. Apparently he's really good at the Steve matchup. He was invited but got replaced by Asimo because he has a family and it's hard for him to travel, and he really wants to make it to the Smash World Tour this year, or I should say next year, and that's why he couldn't come. And last but not least, for the European people, Bloom wasn't invited because he's too young and they would have to pay for 2 people's flight if he were to come, so they chose to invite 2 players instead of 1. Yeah, that's what I read on Twitter. I don't know if all of this is true. Alright, so let's have a look at the bracket on Friday. On Friday we have the last chance qualifier, and guys, a last chance qualifier, just like the later final bracket, is really stacked. So let's have a look at the players first and then the bracket. Okay, we got Louis Money, Frog, Goblin, Mr. E, Jezzo, Ouch, Void, Lima, Loaf, Hbox, MVD, Xavier, Ned, Base Mage, AC, Ling, Quinn, Jackal, Wardy, Skittles, Sand, Van, Big D, Quendale, Dingelingleton also, Stroda, 8-Bit Man, Shadik, Kurama, who was known as Prodigy, Yoni, Dagpo, Skyj, Sinji, Peepnut, just to name a few, or maybe it's more than a few. And when we look at the bracket, we have Louis Money as first seed, then we got Jackal, third is Shadik, and then Lima. I won't go into too much detail here, because first of all, I don't think the LCQ players matter that much in the later bracket, like no hate intended. They are all better players than me and most of us, but still. And most importantly, I don't think you guys are interested in analyzing this bracket. If you are, and I'm wrong, then tell me in the comments and I will do a deeper dive into these other brackets as well, like for another tourney in the future. It's your choice, I mean it, write a comment and I'm probably gonna listen. Okay, so when I look at the LCQ bracket, and I personally don't know if this is final, but Shadik feels a bit too high to me. I mean, there's all these other sick players like Ouch, MVD, Net, Base Mage, Sand, Loaf, Big D and so on, and I would probably put one or a few of these higher than Shadik, but maybe I missed something. And by the way, I heard Wadi will probably not make it to the event, but I'm not sure if this is true. Anyways, 8 of these players are gonna qualify for the real bracket, or I should say real Swiss pools of the final bracket, which is gonna start on Saturday. And in case you didn't know, all games, last chance qualifier, Swiss pools, final bracket, all are best of 5 sets. Okay, so on Saturday there's going to be Swiss pools, and maybe you're just as lost with Swiss pools as I am. Liquid last explained how this is done in a short Twitter video, but let me explain it again with this little bracket graphic. You need 3 wins to be out of the bracket in winners, and if you lose 3 sets, you are out of the tournament. You will always play against another opponent with the same score as yours. So if you are 0-1, you will play versus another 0-1. If you are 1-2, you play another 1-2 player, and so on. I think you get the idea. So there will be 2 players that will go 0-3, 3 players will go 1-3, and 3 players will go 2-3. So 8 players in both pools will drop out, which means in total 16 players will drop out and 16 players will qualify for the final bracket on Sunday. Furthermore, Last tweeted out the pools matches. They changed them slightly a few hours later to make sure there's less Japanese players fighting each other. But yeah, we got the correct one for this video, at least if this doesn't change again, which I don't think it will. So here are the matches that we know for sure. Pool A, we got Light versus LCQ Gamer 8. And yes, Light is seed 1 for this tournament. Then we got Shootown versus Mute Ace, Spargo versus LCQ number 1, Onan versus Myron, Riddles versus LCQ number 5, Meister versus Hiski, Cola versus LCQ 4, and Tweak versus Ken. And in Pool B we got a Cola versus LCQ number 7, Zomba versus Asimo, Gluttony versus LCQ number 2, Sonics versus Jack, MK Leo versus LCQ number 6, Cosmos versus Zachary, T versus LCQ number 3, and the Buzz versus Mars. So I personally think it's kinda crazy that Light is seed 1, but he has been popping off recently. But I think either Leo or Cola should have been seed 1, but I don't really mind. I think a lot of seeding is also different than expected because, again, they tried hard not to have too many Japanese fight each other and so on. Okay, so from my understanding of the bracket and with the information of the seeding and the pools matches that we got, I created this Excel sheet, and heads up, this took me like forever to make. I don't care if it's wrong in the end. But I don't think it is actually. I think it should be right. And second, this is gonna take some time because we're gonna go into some detail with the bracket. I don't want to go into super crazy detail, but it's still pretty detailed. And I want to outline some of the takes that I have, like some upsets that I think are gonna happen in the Swiss pools bracket. And yeah, so if you like this stuff, then keep on watching. Okay, I will always show you the prediction by seeding first, or it will be in the top half of the screen, and then what I personally think will happen on the bottom part of the screen, so we can compare both sides a bit. Okay, first off, we got a Cola versus LCQ number 7, which I think a Cola will take, like, no matter who it's gonna be. And then Zomba versus Asimo is a hard one. I think Asimo has lots of Rob experience because Rob is, I think, pretty popular in Japan. I'm not so sure about Zomba having really good Shoto experience. So I think Asimo will win for some reason, even if seeding says something else. Then we got Gluto versus LCQ number 2. And this is actually a hard one as well, because we don't know who's coming out on top. I think Gluto is quite good in the Wolf matchup, so if he fights Jackal, I think he wins. And I can't see Louis Money not win the LCQ, but Pardo is tough for Warrior, so this could go either way. And there's a chance that Lima upsets Jackal and might actually be number 2. And then I think Lima would maybe win versus Gluttony, because we all know he struggles versus Bayonetta, but it would be kinda hype if they have to fight, because maybe Gluto beats Lima, and that would spark the discussion if Bloom is actually the best Bayo in the world or not again. Next up we have Sonics versus Check. Another hard one. I mean, these are all hard to call. I think Sonics will win personally. I feel like Check loses these kind of weird matchups. Then MKLeo versus LCQ. And I'm gonna be honest, I don't think anyone from LCQ will beat Leo. So Leo wins. Cosmos versus Zachary. Zachary is my call here, because Zachary has enough experience versus Aegis and Chokemos. I mean Cosmos, yeah, he often chokes. So Zachary on my paper. Then T versus LCQ. And it kinda depends on who he has to fight. I think Jackal or Louis Money have the best chances on winning against T. Probably actually Jackal, but I don't know. I think T wins these, so I will go with T. And then we have the Buzz versus Mars, and it's kinda lame how these two have to fight so early, but I guess shit happens. I will root for Lips, and that's also my prediction. Alright, so let's go to 1-0 from my prediction bracket. Akola versus Asimo, I think it's an easy one. They played at Mezuma and Akola won 3-0 if I remember correctly, so Akola wins. Then Gluto versus Cosmos, and they played at Genesis in the dark room. I know that Cosmos lost, and I think he lost quite badly, so definitely Gluttony. Also Gluto beat Leo's Aegis so many times. I think he's good at the matchup, and yeah, Gluto for me, definitely. Then MKLeo versus the Buzz, and I don't see a world where Leo loses to the Buzz anytime soon. I think if Leo wants to win, he will go Joker versus the Buzz, and then he has to go Rosa, and Rosa will probably also lose, so MKLeo definitely. And then T versus Sonics, and T has lots of Ken experience, so T is gonna win. And for the lower bracket, I'm not gonna say too much. I just think that there's a good chance that Check actually gets upsetted by Jackal. So that's why I go for Zomba wins, Zachary wins, Mars wins, and LCQ number 2 wins. Okay, then we got the 2-0 bracket. We got Akola versus Gluttony, and I don't know if you guys know, but Gluttony really struggled against Steve for the longest time. First was online, and later he lost to Trop offline. So I don't think Gluttony is too good at the matchup, even though I think he beat Onan also, or Yoni. But I think Akola will win. And MKLeo versus T, for me, is a bit harder. I think T could do it, but at the same time, I don't really believe it. I think Leo wants to win this tournament. I think he's gonna win versus T. Alright, then for the 1-1 bracket, I'm just gonna say the winners. Sonics takes it over Mars. I think the Buzz wins. Actually think Cosmos wins over Zomba, because Zomba got destroyed by Spargus Aegis once. And I think Asimo takes it over Zachary for some reason, but I'm not sure. It's hard. And the 0-2 bracket goes as expected. Then let's look at the 2-1 bracket. We got T versus Asimo. I think T is gonna win. And then we got Gluttony versus Cosmos. And this is a rematch from earlier, from the 1-0 bracket. And I don't know if this is possible in Swiss pools, so I might be wrong here. But if this works like this, then I think Gluttony will win again. And then last we got Sonics versus the Buzz, which is definitely going to be a close one. I think last time they both played, the Buzz won, so I'm gonna go with the Lips again. For the 1-2 bracket, I think Zomba is gonna take it, Zachary is gonna take it over Check, and Mars is gonna take it. And then for the final bracket of the Swiss pools, Pool B, we got Sonics versus Zachary, which I think Zachary is gonna win. Then Cosmos versus Asimo. I think Asimo is gonna win. And Zomba versus Mars, where I think Zomba is gonna win. So this would mean Akola MKLeo qualifies, T Gluttony Dabas qualifies, and Zachary Asimo Zomba qualify. Just for the comparison, seeding wise, Akola MKLeo, ST, Gluttony, Sonics, and the Buzz, Cosmos, and Asimo are expected to qualify. And then let's have a look at Pool A. I know I did it the other way around because I'm actually more hyped for Pool B with Akola and MK Leo than for Pool A. But let's have a look at Pool A as well. We got Light versus LCQ number 8. I think Light's gonna take it. Shuton versus Mute Ace, which Shuton is gonna take. I saw that they played at Frostbite ages ago and Shuton clearly won 3-0. And I don't really see Mute Ace getting the Olimar practice for that set anywhere. And if I remember correctly, Samsora, for example, always struggled against Olimar players. So I'm definitely gonna go with Shuton here. Then we have Spargo versus LCQ number 1. And this could actually go either way, especially if it's Louis Money, because they always have like back and forth sets and they're always very close. So Spargo would actually lose this, but I'm still saying Spargo's gonna win. Then we got Onan versus Myron. Myron hates fighting Steve, so Onan is gonna win. Then Riddles versus LCQ number 5, which Riddles is gonna win. Meister versus Siski, easy one I think, because Meister played against Siski in Europe and he won big time, so Meister gonna take it. Cola gonna take it over LCQ number 4. And then we got Tweak versus Ken, and they played at Summit 3. And it was Diddy versus Sonic, but I think this time it's gonna be Sephiroth versus Diddy probably. And I think Ken is gonna take it. I think Tweak is gonna lose. Then 1-0 bracket, we got Light versus Shuton, and they didn't play since Frostbite 2020. Last time Light won, and I actually think that Light got much better, so I'm gonna go with the Light. Then Riddles versus Meister, and Riddles, I think he always beat Meister, so he's gonna beat him again. Then Cola versus Ken, and for some reason I'm gonna predict that Cola is like too fast for Ken. I think the spacing is too much for Ken. I think Cola gonna win. And then Spargo versus Onan. Spargo wins this. He's really good at the Steve matchup. First of all, because he's playing Cloud. He plays a lot of Wi-Fi, so he generally has a lot of Steve experience. And at an interview from the Invitational, Cola said that he had a lot of trouble against Spargo. So I think Spargo gonna take it. Then in the lower bracket we got Mute Ace, Siski, Tweak and Myron. And I think everyone is gonna win. Kinda unsure about Myron versus maybe Louis Money, but I'm still gonna say Myron's gonna win, just because it's easier. Okay, let's go to the 2-0 bracket. There we got Light versus Spargo, and I'm gonna say Spargo wins. And we got Riddles versus Cola. This is hard. Cola hates Fighters Pass 2. I'm just gonna say Riddles is gonna win, but I'm not so sure about it. Then in the 1-1 bracket, Onan versus Ken. And Ken has a Cola experience, so I'm gonna say Ken is gonna win. Also, he plays Sephiroth, which is good versus Steve. Tweak versus Myron. I think Tweak's gonna win. Tweak is quite good at the Olimar matchup. Then Meister versus Mute Ace, which Meister's gonna take. And Shuton versus Siski. Safe call. Shuton's gonna win. All Samus players struggle against Olimar, and especially European Samuses. They always struggle against Olimar, because Europe doesn't have a good Olimar player. Then in the 2-1 bracket, we have Cola versus Shuton. And I think Cola is just gonna mash Shuton to the ground. I think Cola's gonna win. Then Light versus Meister. And I know there was this one tournament where someone, I think Pink Fresh, gave Light a tip. And since then, Light has never lost against Meister again. I think he knows something about him, and I don't think Meister can win against Light. And then we have Ken versus Tweak. And this would also be a rematch. Again, I'm gonna think that Ken wins, but I'm not sure if rematches are possible in Swiss pools, so this might be wrong. And then in the lower bracket, we got Mute Ace winning, Siski winning, and Onan winning. So last Swiss pool from Pool A will be Tweak versus Siski. And I think Tweak is gonna win. He's really good at the Samus matchup from what I know. Then Meister versus Shuton. I'm just gonna predict that Shuton is gonna play Aegis and win. And last, Mute Ace versus Onan. And I think Onan is gonna win. Even though Mute Ace should know some stuff about Steve, because he tried to learn some Steve himself, but I don't think this is enough. I think Onan is gonna win. So this would mean Spargo, Riddles, Cola, Light and Ken, and Tweak, Shuton and Onan gonna qualify. And as a reminder, seeding wise, Light, Riddles, Cola, Spargo, Onan, Tweak, Meister and Shuton are gonna qualify. On the top screen you can see who's coming out of pools from pool A and B seeding wise, and on the bottom side you can see who's going to come out of pools from my prediction. And this means that the final bracket would look like this. Top side you can see seeding bracket and my prediction bracket. And again, I will just talk about my prediction bracket. So for my predicted bracket we got Spargo versus Zomba, the Genesis rematch, which Spargo is gonna take again. We got Light versus the Buzz, which Light is definitely gonna take. Last time it really didn't look good for the Buzz. Then Riddles versus Asimo. This is gonna be hype. This is gonna be Shotos versus Shotos, and I think Asimo is gonna come out on top. I'm really hyped for this set, if it's actually happening. And then we got Cola versus Zagray, which I think Zagray is gonna take. Next up, we have Gluttony versus Ken. And just to make things a little bit more spicy, I'm gonna say Ken is gonna win. Then we have a Cola versus Onin. We got the Steve Ditto in the bracket, at least in my predicted bracket. And I'm definitely gonna root for a Cola. No hate towards Onin, but I think a Cola is a little bit better. And then we have T versus Tweak, which I'm gonna say Tweak is actually winning. And then MKLeo versus Shuton, which MKLeo is gonna win. And I think my predicted bracket is actually perfect. Then we have Spargo versus Light, the rematch from Super Smash Con, which Spargo will win. We have Asimo versus Zagray. Zagray is gonna win. Ken versus a Cola gonna win. And then we have Tweak versus Leo, another rematch, another classic, Leo gonna win. I know bracket kinda looks like it's single elimination, but I'm not gonna talk about losers because this whole bracket is already so unsure. But I think Spargo is gonna fight Zagray, Spargo gonna win, and Akola has to fight Leo, and this is hard. This is gonna go two ways. One, Akola destroys Leo just like Onin did, or two, Leo actually goes Joker, and then Leo's gonna win. And I think Leo will take out his Joker at the Invitational, and there's no better set than doing this versus Akola. And then we have either Spargo versus Akola or Leo versus Spargo for the winners final, and I think this is perfect. I think this bracket would be perfect. If it's Akola versus Spargo, I say Spargo gonna win. And if it's Spargo versus Leo, then Leo's gonna win. And either way, I think Leo's gonna fight in losers anyways. And then he will come back to the grand finals and win it. So my prediction is Leo winning this tournament. And if it's not Leo, I think Spargo's gonna take it. Okay guys, this is it. This is my prediction. Now it's your turn. Who do you think is gonna win the tournament? Write it in the comments. Again, I hope you liked the video. I hope you like this kind of style. If you did, feel free to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Thanks a lot for watching and have fun watching the LUDWIG'S Smash Invitational. See you next time. Peace.